And while I remain focused on the significant threat that China poses,
I am a scientist, not a spy.
I have concluded that this initiative is not the right approach.
时间回到约1年前，
An MIT professor is facing charges of grant fraud. 56-year-old Chen.
Gang Chen is accused of using his position,
failing to disclose his ties to the Chinese government.
He was working for the Chinese government while securing U.S. research dollars.
中国行动计划画下句号，但关于科学、国家与忠诚的拷问还在继续。大国甲风中的第3个故事：中国行动计划下，科学家面临的忠诚考卷。
I think we all first heard about it the day he was arrested.
Chen is charged with wire fraud, making false statements, and failing to disclose his financial interest in a foreign bank account.
I was shocked. About a year earlier, a colleague at Harvard, whose name is Charlie Lieber, was arrested also, which I said, oh my God, this is not happening in a far country, it's coming to us. And then Gang Chen's case that sort of hit us all very, very close to our heart.
在陈刚被捕后的一场麻省理工校内会议上，芬克教授向同事们介绍了这个他们可能并未耳闻过的行动 The China Initiative。该行动由美国司法部于2018年启动，旨在打击中国政府的经济间谍活动。会后，芬克和同事们将疑虑汇总进了一封致校长的公开信中。他们的质疑主要围绕司法部的几点指控。第一，司法部称陈刚拿了来自中国南方科技大学的1900万美元。
Part of our job at MIT is to raise money for MIT. When I raise money to fund my research, it doesn't go to me. It goes to MIT, and MIT then goes ahead and funds graduate students and so on and so forth. The government claimed that Gang took $19 million for himself. That is not a naive omission or mistake. That is a deliberate, misleading statement.
另一个指控，陈刚在申请美国能源部资金时，隐瞒了自己和中国组织的关系。
The government mentioned an organization called the Sustek University. And they go on to explain the Chinese government is involved in the universities. They're there to extract information. Sustek is not just a random university that Gang Chen collaborated with. Sustek is an official partner of MIT. Nowhere in the criminal complaint is that mentioned.
指控中列举的陈刚未披露的和中国组织的关系，其中一些后经陈刚律师反驳，证明为捕风捉影。律师也极力证明，当时能源部并没有要求资金申请人披露这些信息。这一点后来得到了能源部的证实。陈刚的律师在采访中告诉歪脑，就成了促使检察官最终撤诉的关键。而剩下的内容在芬克看来，也都是被妖魔化的正常学术活动。
Participating in reviewing research proposals in China. That's part of what we do. It is somehow viewed in a very dark manner. This is what I said to them. If we all could agree that the allegations are untrue to a certain extent, how can we trust the rest of it?
这封公开信在一定程度上改变了当时的舆论风向，让因为不了解案情而观望的一些人开始转为质疑司法部的决定。信中最后一句“我们都是陈刚”也演变成了一句口号。
We're all Gang Chen means the predicament or situation that he is facing is only by chance. Any one of us could find himself or herself in exactly the same situation. Why? Because what he did was very much routine scientific and academic exchanges.
公开信送达后一天，麻省理工校长就发表公告，关于一些指控做出澄清。不仅如此，学校还负担了陈刚的律师费用。能得到如此支持，在中国行动计划的调查对象中实属罕见。其他一些被调查的学者都在被起诉后遭到任职的学校和公司解雇，这3人最终也都被平反，案件以无罪或撤诉告终。所以让这些学者蒙冤的中国行动计划究竟从何而起，又为何而终呢？
I am announcing that I have ordered the creation of a China initiative.
We were, I think, expecting, given a lot of the rhetoric emerging out of the Trump administration,
China's outrageous theft of intellectual property.
To take action against Beijing until the theft of American intellectual property ends once and for all.
That there would be some attempt to address concerns about technology theft.
It wasn't new to be concerned about intellectual property theft and other behavior tied to the Chinese government that was illegal under U.S. law, but it was new to stamp the name China Initiative on those efforts.
美国1996年颁布经济间谍法案，正式将商业机密纳入联邦法律保护范围。2000年代，随着中国加入世贸组织，中国也逐渐成为美国打击知识产权犯罪的头号目标。保护知识产权也成为两国谈判中的重要议题。
Neither the U.S. or the Chinese government will conduct or knowingly support cyber-enabled theft of intellectual property.
但中国政府窃取商业机密的行为并未停止。据美国司法部数据，到中国行动计划时，80%的经济间谍案件受贿方都是中国。
We've now reached the point where the FBI is opening a new China-related counterintelligence case about every 10 hours.
那这样一个意在打击经济间谍的行动，是如何把矛头转向了象牙塔呢？
When the China Initiative was announced, the goal wasn't to lock up scientists. Economic espionage was the marquee crime. But what we've seen over the life now of 3+ years of the China Initiative is more these research integrity cases coming to the forefront.
麻省理工科技评论在研究了所有中国行动计划案件后发现，该行动的打击重点从一开始的经济间谍和网络攻击，逐渐转移到了学术诚信问题上，而指控也变成了填表时未能披露信息这样的和人们想象中的间谍行为相距甚远的罪名。这样的转变也带来了问题。用来打击商业间谍的手段，真的适用于学术领域吗？
The stuff we do on MIT's campus and in general in U.S. research universities is in the open. So the focus of China's initiative on academics seems to me a very curious way of pursuing the protection of U.S. intellectual property. Because if the work that we're doing is published, how can you steal something which is going to be public?
但真正导致了中国行动计划被终止的是关于种族偏见的争议。
We have heard concerns from the civil rights community that the China Initiative has fueled a narrative of intolerance and bias, that the Justice Department treats people from China or of Chinese descent differently.
早在中国行动计划前，美国司法部针对几位华裔科学家的调查就颇受争议。从90年代轰动一时的李文和案，到后来的物理学家奚晓星和水利专家陈霞芬，这些案件都曾引发对美国司法部种族偏见的讨论。
If we don't speak up against the practice of racial profiling, what happened to me could happen to anybody.
虽然司法部和 FBI 负责人在多个场合都坚决否认种族因素影响了中国行动计划下的调查。
This is not about the Chinese people as a whole, and it sure as heck is not about Chinese Americans as a group.
但一些研究者认为，即使并非刻意，潜移默化的偏见也可能会影响调查。
When you keep saying China Initiative, you're going to put out there that there is a threat narrative attached to this idea of China.
We often see the word China used to describe both the Chinese nation, the Chinese government, and the Chinese people, to subsume all of those different people under the heading of targets of the China Initiative is, to me, both destructive, dangerous, and also highly counterproductive.
虽然也有其他族裔涉案，但根据麻省理工科技评论的统计，中国行动计划下被指控的90%都是华裔。
This study showed that 1 in 3 Asian Americans accused of espionage were falsely accused. It found that Asian defendants were punished twice as severely as non-Asian defendants.
但一直到中国行动计划结束，司法部仍坚称未发现任何种族偏见。
I never saw any indication, none, that any decision that the Justice Department made was based on bias or prejudice of any kind.
中国行动计划唯二2个接受庭审的案子，提供了一些关于司法部调查方式的线索。提纳西大学教授胡安明是该计划下第一位接受审判的对象。庭审中 ，FBI 负责此案的首席特工承认，他用谷歌翻译了在网上找到的中文信息，错以为胡安明参与了千人计划，才开始展开调查。
Substantial element of the case against him was built by a non-Chinese literate FBI analyst doing open source searches using Google. Even I know, with my lack of knowledge about the nature of espionage, that that's not going to be a very effective way to catch high-tech criminals.
FBI 花了近2年的时间调查并监视胡安明和他的家人，却未能找到经济间谍罪证据。 最后，法官宣布所有罪名不成立。而另一起开庭的案件以哈佛大学教授 Charles Lieber 被定罪告终。Lieber 被指控隐瞒了参与千人计划和收取中国大学酬金的事实。在2个案件中，千人计划都被调查人员定性为中国政府将美国科技转移回中国的通路，曾经被高调宣传的人才引进项目，就这样成了科学家们的忠诚被怀疑的祸根。陈刚案中，负责此案的检察官 Andrew Lelling 曾经因为一番发言而引起轩然大波。他说，此案和贪婪无关，而和陈刚对中国的忠诚有关。
When you have a U.S. attorney saying that a case that involved a naturalized U.S. citizen was not about money, but about loyalty, I mean, that just strikes at some deep concerns that go back to U.S. history of how foreigners have been treated, and xenophobia, as well as racism.
忠诚一词足以勾起美国亚裔的一段屈辱历史。2战时，美国集中营中的日裔曾被要求回答一份忠诚问卷。拒绝宣誓效忠的人则被送往条件恶劣的隔离中心。直到今天，亚裔依然面临着永远的外人这样的刻板印象。一旦美国与母国关系紧张，就被逼进2选1的困境。
科学工作者本身这个忠诚的问题还是很复杂。比如说我在国内长大的时候，科学英雄都是什么2弹1星的元勋或什么，要么就是科学是特纯粹的，就是跟政治不搭关，要么呢就是科学就是为国家人民服务，保家卫国是最高尚的。这2方面上都是有问题、有局限性的。
千人计划也曾被中国政府宣传成海外人才报效祖国的途径。随着美国政府的调查将千人计划推上风口浪尖，关于它的信息也悄然从墙内网络上消失。一边，千人计划被美国政府看作是中国窃取知识产权的重要手段。
How China has used so-called talent recruitment programs, most notably its 1,000 Talents Plan, to steal U.S. taxpayer-funded research to help fuel the rise of both the Chinese military and the Chinese economy.
而另一边，中国国内也有人对千人计划脚踏2只船的学者颇有微词。认为他们2边沾有水，没有为中国带来实际利益。
所有参与这个项目的都是人，有人的各方面的动机，有自己的高尚的地方，也有自己的局限性。在公众的讨论中，一个国家变成这么一个笼统的、一个单一的概念，知识从一个国家转移到另外一个国家，就变成了一个国家缺了，另外一个国家占了便宜。但事实上，仔细想一想，这个知识不是一个 zero-sum game。
但当2国视彼此为威胁，中间地带越来越狭窄。科学无国界似乎变成了理想主义者的一厢情愿。
China has a fundamentally different system than ours, and it's doing all it can to exploit the openness of ours while taking advantage of its own closed system.
So much of the U.S.'s scientific prowess is built on open research, collaboration across borders. We want to have that flow of information and people. But to what extent, when a foreign government says, we will pay you to spend time doing your research here, collaborating with our scientists, at what point does that cross over from productive and desired collaboration to something that is seen more as a pipeline of information that has national security concerns? That is something which is really hard to draw clear lines.
Societies that are confident and strong don't build huge fences and borders. Maintaining our leadership in science really depends on our ability to continue to attract the brightest and best people in the world to come here.
It's the American ability to use international talent that is one of the great strengths of the United States. Even if you think China is an existential threat, why would you want to eliminate that competitive advantage?
The United States has dropped its case against an MIT professor.
美国司法部正式撤销对陈刚的所有指控。
We try very hard to go back to normal, but I know I will never be the same Gang Chen again.
大背景里，中美科技竞争和中国政府的知识产权窃取行为和陈刚本人并无联系，但却因为他所处的时代，个人命运被大国竞争所裹挟。
有一个很2极化的一种态度，要么是支持中国，要么是反对中国。实际上，在这个过程中，中国到底是什么样一个概念，也是很模糊的；支持与反对是什么样的概念，也是很模糊的。一个国家是很复杂的，即便是政府，它也是很复杂的，有各种各样的政策。那么，我作为一个学者，要本着自己的良心，做的对的地方呢，要说是对的；做的错的地方，要说是错的。
just simply saying we've ended the China initiative, but not dealing with deeper questions about how it's going to be a challenging U.S.-China relationship for the foreseeable future is going to impact the research environment in the U.S., the academic environment. That would worry me almost more, because then you could just push under the table practices that were going on already.
在《科学家和间谍》一书中，作者 Marvin Stendhal 引述了一个叫1000粒沙的假设。假设说，如果想了解一片沙滩，俄罗斯会深夜潜入，带走几桶沙；美国会用卫星扫描沙滩，而中国则会派出数千名游客，让他们每人带回1粒沙。积少成多，中国就有了最多的情报。虽然很少听到官方引用，但中国依靠大量非传统情报分子收集信息的观点，依然影响着美国情报思维。在这样的假设下，后中国行动计划时代里，每一位华裔学者和中国学生依然会被看作是潜在的威胁。大国的夹缝里不是宏大叙事，而是具体的人。从记者到跨国企业，再到学界，大国夹缝中系列的3个故事，是关于尝试跨越国界却被两边夹击的现实。而这样的故事，不仅限于美中之间。